Throughout history, all cultures believed that truth was something outside, out there. Truth, capital T, was something out there. And in here we had feelings, just feelings. So when you found out what the truth was, you brought your feelings in line with it. So if the truth is, thou shalt not commit adultery, but my feeling is I'd like to commit adultery, then I bring my feelings in line with the truth. No. If the truth is you should be willing to fight for your country, and my feelings are I'm scared to do that, then I bring my feelings in line with the truth. So every culture always said, the truth is out there, feelings are in here. We are the first culture in the history of the world in which we are being told, no, truth is in here. And outside are nothing but culturally constructed feelings. You find truth inside. You go inside to find truth. And then you come out and you tell everybody, you have to accommodate me because I found the truth. This is who I am. This is what's right or wrong for me. There's never been a culture in history like that. It's the complete reverse. Or another way to put it is, if you would go as a Christian missionary to a Hindu or a Muslim or a Confucianist or to an animist, we would argue about it. But there was some concept that the meaning of life was to be good. The meaning of life was to align yourself with that truth or that sacred order. Now, we all disagreed on what the sacred order was. We all disagreed on what the divine, the transcendent was. But at least we all said, yes, the meaning of life is to sublimate your selfish desires and to align with the truth. We live in the first culture in the history of the world that says exactly the opposite. They say the problem with this world is telling people they need to be saved, telling people they need to align with the truth. The solution, what will make the world is great, is if every single person is free to define right and wrong for themselves and to live as he or she seeks to live. It's the opposite. In the past, every culture has always said the problem is the selfish, autonomous individual, and the answer is connect with the truth. We live in the first culture that says the answer to our problems is the autonomous individual. And therefore, if you tell an autonomous individual there's a truth that you need to align with, that's evil. Modern culture says the one thing we need to be saved from is the idea that we need to be saved. The one thing that we need to be redeemed from is this very idea that we need to be redeemed. That's what's wrong. You telling me that you have the truth and I have to align with it. Now, that has created problems in the society, and I'll just give you a few of them. It's not like we don't know this. There's what you might call the great unraveling going on. That means, for example, there's political polarization. Left and right today are not arguing, they don't even have common understanding of what rationality is or what justice is. If you have a different understanding of what reason means and what rationality is, or what justice is, because the concepts are so far apart, there is absolutely no way to talk. And so you have in every country in the West an astounding polarization in a way that nobody can ever remember seeing before. Then, of course, you've got not only the polarization politically, you've got a polarization between the religious and the secular. The Western world was largely Christian, but Christian like this. Of course, I'm Lutheran. I'm Norwegian. See? Of course I'm Presbyterian, I'm Scottish. Of course I'm Catholic, I'm Irish, okay? And in America, of course, we had denominations, but still, of course I'm Methodist because my father and my grandfather were Methodists. Of course I'm Baptist because my father and my grandfather were Baptist, see? And therefore, there was this thing called inherited religion. But that's going away. Why? Because we live in a radically individualistic society in which truth is inside you, and therefore nothing can be given to you. You have to choose yourself everything. Nothing can be handed to you. It's got to be your choice. So what's going away is what most people in the Western world have been, which is nominal Christians, right? Instead, what you have are a growing secularism and, to some degree, a fair amount of devout religion, too. But there's this polarization going on. Another polarization, of course, by the way, is the middle class is going away, and you have elites, and you have a great deal of wealth accumulating at this end, and you have a lot of economic need at the other end. You have the unraveling of all social institutions, because we live in a totally individualistic culture. That's the reason why. And you pull out the Bible and you say, well, it says right here, and their eyes, glaze over. Why? Because the world has catechized your kid. Because you've got to be true to yourself. Even though Jesus says you have to lose yourself to find yourself. But you've got to be true to yourself. You should be free to live any way you want as long as you're not harming somebody else. No one has the right to tell anybody else what is right or wrong for him or her. You need to be happy in the long run. You've got to do what makes you happy. Those things have come in through social media. These things have come in through stories, through narratives, through commercials, through marketing. It's astounding. Nobody sat around and even said, let me give you the reason why these would be good things to believe. They're not seen as beliefs. They're just givens, and they're just put on us. And they come at your kids, and they've been catechized by the world. 57% of all young people under the age of 25 spend 4 hours a day on social media. 25% spend 8 hours a day on social media. When I was growing up, everybody was in a panic over television. Because they were right in saying, now, if a kid watches a couple hours of television a night, that's intrusive. It used to be that the children were completely under the influence of the parents and of the church and wherever they went. Now TV comes in with these values from Hollywood or these values from New York City. TV is nothing like social media. How are we going to form people as Christians in a digital age, in a post-Christian age? And lastly, the last challenge that the church is facing is what I'm going to call political polarization. The left and right, the political left and right, as I already mentioned, they're getting further apart. They're getting angrier at each other. They cannot speak to each other because they're operating out of almost completely different worldviews. But listen, everybody, they're secular worldviews, both of them. One makes an idol out of the liberal or the left, makes an idol out of individual freedom. But the right wing can make an idol out of blood and soil, out of Blut und Boden, out of nation. And what happens then is, because both the left and the right have these enormous numbers of websites and news feeds and podcasts and all that, Christians get sucked into one or the other, and frankly, the tail starts to wag the dog. And you develop blue evangelicalism and red evangelicalism. Blue evangelicalism starts to talk a lot about race and justice, but never seems to bring up abortion or sexuality much. And red evangelicalism talks about abortion and sexuality, but doesn't want to talk about race and justice. That's social justice stuff. And what's happening at that point is the church is not being driven by the Bible. The Christians are actually being driven by the political extremes. And the church itself and evangelicalism is starting to get ripped apart by that. What do we do? What do we do? In 10 minutes, here's 5 things. Hey, I gave 10 minutes, I say unto you. And you have to make visible the narratives of the culture and then deconstruct them using the Word of God. And it's got to be very direct. So when the kids, as they're growing up, they see the narratives in their movies. They see the narrative, my favorite one, of course, is in Frozen, Elsa. She starts with basically a traditional identity, where she's talking about how I have to be a good girl and I have to, be careful what everybody says. And then suddenly she throws off her cape and she pulls down her hair and she gets into this glamorous outfit and she says, I'm going to let it go. And she says, it's time to see what I can do, test the limits and break through. No right, no wrong, no rules for me. I'm free. She actually goes from a traditional identity to a modern identity just like that right in front of you with a wonderful costume change. And can your kids identify that? But I like the song, by the way. I like the song. And I like the animation. I liked it. But I also know what's going on. I know what they were trying to tell me. Do your kids know or not? Counter catechesis. Number 3,